Good is the enemy from great. Welcome. What I want to share today is a little research what I've done over the last couple of days and weeks. I don't know whether do you know the great books of Jim Collins, Good to Great and Great by Choice. And one of my favorite books from Dennis Jaffe, Borrowed from Your Grandchildren, The Evolution of the 100-Year Family Enterprise. If you don't have these books in your library, it's just a clear recommendation to have these books in your library. So what I was looking for was where are the parallels between these outstanding books? And in this episode number 1, I will share with you these parallels of the book from Jim Collins, Good to Great, and I will compare this book to Dennis Jaffe's book, Borrowed from Your Grandchildren. And what I can tell you now is it was fascinating. It was surprising to me that there are so many parallels. And I will give you just a reason why I've done this research. You know, we do things so complicated for families. And in many cases, I would say overall, if we do make things complicated for families, that isn't just for the benefit of the family, it's just for the benefit of the advisor or the institution, but to want to serve the family. And so that was just a reason to figure out where are the patterns between an enterprise and a family enterprise. Because in the end of the day, in a family enterprise, you will see humans and individuals, and you will see in a family humans and individuals. And it should be our responsibility and our duty to figure out where are the parallels and what we can use to make just in simple approach, a simple structure for families who want to become just a generational family, a tribal family, or maybe a century family that they can sustain their legacy, their purpose over the next generations. So what I want to start today is just first, I will compare the book Good to Great with the book of Dennis Jaffe, Borrowed from Your Grandchildren. And I've discussed this with Dennis, and Dennis was also a little bit surprised that there are so many parallels. So what we can see is I've written down this, and please excuse me if I take a look on my notes. In some cases, there are 6, I will call principles. What you can see in comparison between the book Good to Great and to the book from Dennis Jaffe, Borrowed from Your Grandchildren. And the first principle is leadership. And leadership that serves a greater purpose. And I will give you just the definition of Jim Collins and in comparison what Dennis Jaffe is writing out. In Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he called it the level 5 leadership. And what I mean by this is just that he explained that great companies are led by humble, disciplined leaders who care more about success of the company than personal gain. And Dennis is long-lasting families have leaders who transition from controllers to mentors, serving the family's future rather than their own power. And it is fascinating if you make this parallel, that is the sustainable success comes from leadership that is selfless, legacy-minded, and focus on building systems that outlast the individuals. For me, it was just a takeaway to deep dive what kind of system can we provide for enterprising families that they can build up just a family for the next century. Here's principle number 2, core values and clarity of purpose. Jim Collins, he called it just the hedgehog concept, is Great companies discover and commit to a clear mission, what they can be best at, what drives them economically, and what they are passionate about. In tennis, families that endure have a shared purpose beyond wealth, often involving social impact, stewardship, and collective identity. And if you make a summary of these second principle, clarity of purpose and alignment around values is essential for both companies and families. Surprise, surprise. To stay focused and cohesive across time. Principle number 3 is confronting reality while holding faith. Jim Collins, he called it just a Stockholm paradox. Leaders must face brutal facts without losing faith in long-term success. And Dennis, generational families must deal honestly with tensions and transitions while trusting in a family's ability to evolve. And as a summary of this third principle, resilience depends on balancing realism with optimism, confronting current challenges with keeping the bigger vision and value. I found it fascinating. Principle number 4, discipline, culture, and systems. Jim Collins have wrote in his book, Good to Great, he talks about the culture of discipline. Great organizations, he wrote, really undisciplined people, thought, and actions. And Dennis, generative families use structures like governance councils, family charters, and education systems to good behavior and decision making. And as a summary, enduring success is built on systems that encourage responsibility, accountability, and continuous learning. The question for me is just, what kind of system do you have implemented in your family? Ask yourself. Principle number 5, the role of time and momentum. Jim Collins was described as a flywheel. Change is not instant. Success is built slowly through consistent effort and momentum. And Dennis Jaffe, generational wealth and values must be cultivated slowly over time, which each generation contributing to the momentum. And as a summary of this principle number 5, greatness, whether in business or in family, is a long game, achieved through steady, intentional progress, not quick wins. Ask yourself, do you on the way of greatness or do you just a good family? I don't know. Last principle, from good to great in comparison to Dennis Jaffe's book, Brought from the Grandchildren. Principle number 6 is inclusion and empowerment of the next generation, or I call it raising generation. Jim Collins called it companies that succeed planned for leadership succession and build deeper benches of talent. And Dennis, families that drive actively engage the rising generation in leadership, education, and decision making early on. And as a summary of this very important principle, in both spheres, lasting success requires empowering and preparing future leaders, not clinging to the past. So for me, it is very clear that we can compare these great books. And what we can learn from them is just build up a system, build up a structure. That a system and a structure can give you just a guideline for your family now, but also for the raising generation and the next generation coming on. What I want to share in my next episode will be the parallels between Jim Collins' book, Great by Choice. I like it very much. And also Dennis Jaffe's book, Brought from the Grandchildren. So I would be happy and more than happy if you stay tuned. And yeah, if you like this kind of content, I would be more than happy if you subscribe this channel and please give me just a like and hit the subscribe button. For now, be bold and until next.